so I feel like a goddamn jackass right now. Started up trying to do this video and realized only about halfway through that I didn't even have my freaking headset on, and so I was talking, but there wasn't going to be any audio because I wasn't wearing my microphone. I'm stupid. God. So let's exit out of that one. My apologies here. Hopefully this is just, yeah. I've been, I don't know, kind of, out of it. I don't know what the hell. Anyways, so this is going to be our second entry into the Buyer Beware series that I decided to start. Man, I really wish I hadn't fucked up the first take. Anyways, so this is the Bravado Gauntlet Hellfire. A lot of people have probably been wondering about this car and if it's any good, if it's worthwhile, any of that shit, you know? And even though there's plenty of other people here on YouTube who basically do this same thing, giving their opinions on the different vehicles that come out, my opinion is generally quite a bit different from most other people because I'm a different kind of person. But as you can see here, I have pretty fully customized my Bravado Gauntlet, and as a side note, the first episode of the Buyer Beware thing that I did, the previous one with the Vapid Ellie, the money that I got from selling it, which you saw at the end of that video, pretty much all of that money went towards me buying this car. So, yeah. Anyways, I have pretty much fully upgraded this car as far as performance goes. The only thing I haven't done is the suspension lowering, because it goes down pretty low, and I don't think that would really help it all that much because it's already kind of low to the ground as it is, and I feel like being that low, the front bumper would get clipped on curbs and things like that, and I don't want that, so yeah. But yeah, what I want to do with this is go through all the options, you know, I think just like I did with the Ellie, and show what all you can do with the car, and then start talking about the actual performance of the car and how good it is, or how bad it is, whatever the case may be. Now, of course, you have the normal options, your armor, your brakes, your engine, horn, lights, lost theft prevention, the license plate, respray options, suspension, transmission, turbo, wheels, and windows are the usual options that pretty much every car in the game has, most of which anyways. Let's take a look at some of the stuff that's actually unique to this car. You go into bumpers, you got front and rear bumper options. The stock front bumper option is just like a blacked out chin spoiler. And that's actually one of the things that I don't like about this car, is you can't actually get rid of that chin spoiler on the front. It's there no matter what. These different bumper options aren't really bumper options so much as they are coloring options for the bumper. As I mentioned, stock is just black. Primary makes it match the primary color. Secondary makes it match the secondary color, which is black, but with the blue pearlescent that is on the primary color. Because I do have this painted in my White Wolf, as I call it, color scheme that I have. The primary is a white, frost white, I believe is the actual name for it. It's a frost white metallic with a standard blue pearlescent, also metallic, I think. Or no, pearlescent, it's just pearlescent. The secondary color is metallic black. The neon color is black light. The tail light, or the headlights rather, are the bright white that you can only get here in the arena workshop. And the tire smoke is blue. That's the color scheme that I have. Oh, and the rims are gold. And you'll also notice those are the stock rims, which normally can't be painted, but there's actually a trick, and most people are already aware of it. It uses the iFruit app that you can get on your phone. Yeah. If you want to know more about that, there's other people on YouTube who already have covered it. Mr. Boss for the win, one such person who has done that. Anyways, let's get back to these front bumper options. We're on the secondary splitter. Then you have carbon splitter, which just paints it carbon fiber. And then you move into the other one, which again doesn't change it, it just changes the paint. And this just blacks out, or rather it makes it match the secondary color. So that's the front bumper, and that's with a black chin spoiler. And then you have the secondary chin spoiler with the secondary front bumper, and then you have a carbon fiber chin spoiler with the secondary bumper. So, yeah. And then for rear bumpers, the only option you really have is to add a wheelie bar and the drag racing style parachute braking system, which from what I've heard doesn't even function. Like, you can't even use it. So really there's no point in having it. The wheelie bar does function, obviously. It'll keep the car from going up too high when you pull a wheelie, because since this thing is a muscle car, it can pull a wheelie. Yeah. But the wheelie bar can get stuck on things, so that can be kind of problematic. I usually just run without it. So your exhaust options, by default, you got these two little pipes coming out the back, these little cutouts in the rear bumper. You got the big bore option, which is just bigger pipes, and they're kind of cut at an angle like that, as opposed to the other ones, which appear to be, well, there's still a slight angle, but it's less. And then you got these, which are also cut at an angle, but they're even bigger than the big bore ones. Then you got race exhaust, which look to be even bigger, and those are still at maybe a slight angle, or are those straight? I don't know. And then you have the side exit exhaust, which is the option I've chosen. It just makes these little rectangular pipes that come out right in front of the rear wheels. And then you have the titanium option, which is the same thing, but it has those weird red and blue coloring to it. And that does, of course, go on both sides for both of those. So you got one on each side. The grille options, stock, it matches the primary color. And then you have a grille delete, which takes it completely out, and you can even see back into the engine bay, which is kind of neat. Then the secondary grille, which is what I've chosen, it's the same as the stock, but it's the secondary color. You can have blacked out grille, which is again the same, but it's all blacked out. Primary open gets rid of the little nose bit that's in the middle, you can see in the middle there's this little nose bit. You got the open one, gets rid of that, and it's just a mesh grill, and it's the primary color, and then the secondary color, and then a blacked out one. Headlight covers. I have these nice bull bar options because I figured I was going to be ramming people with this thing, and you want to be able to not only do that but still protect the headlights. Yeah. Stock, there's nothing there, of course. Black, you just have these metal like slits that go across, and they're blacked out. And then you have the chrome option, dual headlight intakes. That completely removes the headlights and uses them instead as air intakes for the engine. A single light cover and an intake, dual light covers, mesh grill cover, which that apparently seems to black out the light on the headlights, because yeah, the headlights are on right now. And then there's the plated front, which covers them up completely with a solid plate, and you can have the livery on there, and the bull bars option. Yeah. Hood options are kind of not really all that great, in my opinion. The stock hood is just this stock I believe they refer to it as cowl induction. You can see there's these kind of it has this kind of bump thing that goes down like that, and then there's grooves around it, because that's actually not part of the hood, it's actually a cover on the engine. And so the hood is cut out around it, and there's a little gap around it that'll actually suck air in. Then you got a smooth hood, which is actually just smooth, you know. Secondary color hood, which is the same as the normal one, but it's painted the secondary color. Carbon hood, again the same, but it's carbon. Primary vented adds these two little vents, one on each side of the cowl induction scoop. Secondary vented, same thing, but with secondary color. Carbon version. Dual air filter adds this big old supercharger on top with a belt driven. It's actually animated. You can see the belt moving there. And the thing kind of shakes. With these two little filters on top, and then one large version. And then you have the nice oval intake, big huge blower on top. And then the triple intake bug catcher, which this one is actually animated the way it's supposed to be, which is one of the problems, one of the complaints I had with the stock, or the normal, or the older version of the triple intake bug catcher that they used to do, was these little things wouldn't move the way they're supposed to. They're supposed to move, you know, because that's what it actually does. They block stuff from getting into the intake when the car's idling, and when you hit the gas, they move open so air can come in. You got the same normal horn options. It's always a good idea to go with a nice loud horn, because I've found that the AI traffic will actually get out of your way or stop if you honk at them with a nice loud horn. And the pansy-ass little stock horn doesn't really cut it, so I usually like to go with a nice loud truck horn. The air horns work really well. You got your musical options, your looped options. Then for lights, you got your normal options. You got stock and xenon, which you can find in any of the Los Santos customs. And then here in the arena, and only here in the arena workshop, you can find these bright white lights, which are definitely brighter than the stock ones. And then, of course, you can go through the different colors, same colors that are available for the neon lights. The only exception being no crew color is available for headlights. Yeah. Then you got your neon kits, of course. And as I mentioned, the crew color, which is different depending on what crew you're in. The different, basically they're like guilds in a normal world, a normal MMORPG kind of thing. And then you get into liveries. This is what the car looks like by stock. You know, depending on what your color options are. You got dual white stripes going all the way down the top of the car. Nothing on the sides though. And then you have dual red stripes, which is the same thing but with red stripes. And then the same thing but with blue stripes. So you got a nice red, white, and blue. You got the Bravado billboard, which is kind of a throwback to classic Chrysler muscle cars from way back in the day, the old Challengers and Chargers and the old Hemi Cudas used to have these kind of things where the rear quarter panel was blacked out and it would narrow down to like a stripe that would go all the way up to the front. Well, they don't have the stripe, but it's got the Bravado logo there. And then this nice big thick stripe that goes down the middle of the hood. And the bit even goes up on the spoiler there that I have there. Then you've got these black racer stripes, more black stripes. They go down the top of the car and all the way back, and then on the side. Black two-tone, which is very similar, but it completely blacks out the hood, the roof, and the trunk lid. And then you got the stripe down the side as well with a little Bravado logo on the back quarter panel there. Weekend Warrior is just a camouflage pattern. I don't know if it changes based on what colors you have the car painted. It kind of seems to be matched to the colors that you have it painted. I'm not sure. But either way, next one is the Redwood stock car, which makes it look very much like the race car version of the normal Gauntlet. You can buy that car in the menu. I think it's actually free right now. It might not be, though. That special may have ended. Too Much Free Time is the livery that I decided to pick. Very detailed, very tribal, rounded lines with sharp edges and stuff like that, and all kinds of interesting bits on there. Raceway Hero, just a race car livery with the number 21 on it. Bravado Racing with the number 77, or maybe that's, no, that's 77. Another kind of race car livery. And the Royal Tribute, which I believe is supposed to be a tribute to Richard Petty, the NASCAR driver who was fairly loyal to the Dodge brand throughout most of his career. And this was the kind of livery he had on his car. I don't know if he used the number 23, but that is the correct font, I believe, that he, or it's close to it anyways. And then to do this properly, you'd have to match up the primary color with it's a light shade of blue, like a baby blue kind of shade that he used to use, was his signature color for the car. And those are all the livery options. Oops. You got the loss and theft prevention, you got your license plate options. The rear panel, by stock, it's just what goes around the tail light and in between. By default, it's just black. You can have it matched with the primary color or the secondary color, or you can make it carbon fiber, or you can do this plate thing that covers up the tail lights, and you can do a black surround or a primary surround or a secondary color surround. You got your respray options, your primary, your secondary, and the trim color actually changes, like the trim on the interior of the car, and it's actually on the steering wheel as well. Roll cage options, by default no cage, and then you get the standard roll cage, which adds a nice little cage, and then you got an upgraded cage with padded bars, and it also changes your seats to these carbon fiber seats, and then another option changes it to sports seats, and then you got performance seats, race seats, and drag seats. But I like the normal seats, so I just decided to go with the normal roll cage option. Roof options, you got the stock roof, or you can make it carbon fiber. There's no like roof scoop options or any kind of grooves in the roof like are available on certain other cars. It's just you get normal roof or carbon fiber. Your side skirt options, by default they're just blacked out, and you can have them match with the primary color or the secondary color. Spoiler options, the default spoiler is just this small little lip spoiler on the back. Not really big deal. Then you can get a secondary one, which matches it with the secondary color, or plastic, which I think just makes it like black, or you can do carbon fiber, or you can do a stock car spoiler, which is kind of like a NASCAR kind of spoiler. Do a drag spoiler, which is this kind of long sloped thing. The mid-level spoiler, which is what I've got. High level wing. You can do a drift wing, which is a little bit bigger, or you can do a tuner wing, which is a little bit smaller. The race wing, and those are your options. So a few decent options at least. The suspension I didn't bother lowering because it's low enough, and I don't want the front end catching on curbs and other little objects like that. Transmission I have fully upgraded. I got the turbo on the thing, of course. And again, I mentioned the stock wheels being painted. I always paint my rims gold on this paint scheme anyways. But I do like the stock tires that this car comes with. I like the tread pattern, and the little red line that's around the rims, that actually comes with the tires. That's actually a part of it. And you can't change the color, so it's stuck as being red. You got your window options, of course. And those are your options for your car, modifying your Gauntlet Hellfire, not too many great options. I don't know if I mentioned it, but with the hood, I wish there was an option to have the actual ram air kind of scoop that is actually on the actual Dodge Demon that this is based off of, where it's just like an oval-shaped scoop towards the front of the hood that sucks air directly into the engine instead of these stupid cowl induction things. And even with these little vents on the sides, it's not much better. And I don't like these kind of hoods with the things that stick up, because if you go into first person, it blocks your vision and it makes it hard for you to see while you're driving the car. So that's why I decided to stick with the primary vented hood. Yeah. But now we move on to the second part of this video, and that's where we will actually analyze. We will actually analyze the performance of the car. And I've actually had this car for a few days now, and I've been playing around with it. It's actually not bad. As far as the muscle car category goes, it's probably one of the fastest, if not the fastest. And that's obvious considering the real-world car that it's based off of, the Dodge Challenger Demon, which is supposed to be the fastest muscle car. I mean, the thing was purpose-built to be a street-legal drag car. So, yeah, it's fast. The thing about this car, one thing you're going to find about it is that it has some quirks to the way it drives and the way it handles. Now, you'll remember in the previous video with the Vapid Ellie, I mentioned how it had just an extreme overabundance of oversteer. Well, the Gauntlet Hellfire has a bit of oversteer as well, but only at certain times. And it also has understeer, which is kind of puzzling, because how the hell does it have both understeer and oversteer at the same time? Well, it doesn't have them at the same time, it has them at different times. Now here's the trick to driving this car and trying to corner it, because cornering it, considering it's supposed to be a drag car, of course it's not going to be able to turn super well. But it actually can if you know what you're doing. Here's the trick. When you go into a corner, what you want to do... Well, first let me explain the oversteer and the understeer. If you're on the throttle, it has oversteer. It's kind of hard for me to show with all this damn traffic around. But yeah, you'll see how it's starting to fishtail. When you're on the throttle, it has oversteer. If you let off the gas, it switches to understeer. Well, it's still kind of... I think maybe I threw it in when it was still under power, so it was... still had the oversteer. Let me try again at this. I'm going to let off the gas, and then go to turn, and you notice it doesn't turn. Well, I suppose if you shake it back and forth, but if you hold the turn, it has understeer. So the trick to making this thing corner is to switch back and forth. Don't hold the gas, feather it a little bit, just kind of tap it. That way the car kind of switches back and forth between oversteer and understeer, and it keeps the thing from spinning out from oversteer. And you also won't understeer and not be able to make the turn like on really sharp turns. It's kind of hard to explain without being on like a racetrack or something like that. But I've done races in the game. A few days ago they were still running the special where they had the stunt races on special for double money and RP. And one of those stunt races is a muscle car race. I can't remember the name of it. But using the Ellie was a nightmare because it just oversteered like crazy. But with this thing, it was actually not too hard to manage once you get the hang of it. You see there, it's just understeering and it doesn't want to turn very much. But if you get on the gas, it wants to whip it around and spin out. Actually, the way we're headed right now is actually a pretty good place for this because there's some curved roads and some nice sharp turns. Yeah. But basically, if you floor the gas, the tires want to break loose, the rear tires anyways. They want to break loose and throw the car into like a drift or just completely spinning it out. But if you go into a turn with some speed and then you let off the gas and go to turn, it doesn't really turn super hard unless you waggle it back and forth. And it really doesn't make tight turns very well when you've let off the gas. You kind of have to, again, as I mentioned, you kind of have to feather it a bit to get it to turn. And of course, hitting the handbrake will kind of throw it into a nice drift sometimes. The thing has a lot of power, and in a straight line, this thing's probably the fastest muscle car in the game right now. I just lost the headlight. Oh well. Off-road? I don't know. Oh boy. See, that's the other thing with this car, is the whole idea of, like, oversteer, it turns too much. Or not really, but like... That's actually the other thing about this car that's kind of different. Most cars actually have understeer when you are on the throttle. And then they switch to oversteer when you get off the gas. This car, it's the other way around. So it kind of goes against your natural instincts if you've gotten used to a lot of the different cars in the game. This one is basically the complete opposite. So trying to go against your natural instincts and kind of unlearn what you know about other cars, it's kind of a problem. But the car is nice and fast, and it definitely looks really cool, especially with some of these different livery options that you can get on it. It's a shame they didn't do more with bumper options and hood scoop options. And it's a shame that they didn't have any, like, actual rear bumper options, like, instead of just adding the frickin' the wheelie bar and the drag chute, they could have actually changed the rear bumper and made it look different, especially when you have the side exit exhaust, which no longer comes out of the little cutouts in the rear bumper that are there no matter what. You could at least have the option to get rid of them or change the bumper entirely. The car sounds fairly good for the most part, although I think it should sound a lot better. Again, considering what it's based off of, if you've ever heard what the Demon sounds like, it sounds a lot better than this. You know, you can just kind of hear that, and it doesn't really sound all that impressive. It also takes a bit of time to get this thing slowed down and stopped from going really fast. The brakes aren't super great. Let's see if we can handle some off-road driving here a little bit. Like I say, once she starts sliding sideways, you can kind of pitch it in to drift through some turns fairly well. And once again, you may remember from the Ellie video, one of the biggest problems I mentioned with that car is the turbo shift trick not working with that car. It actually works fine in this one. Let me get to a place where I can do it, a nice smooth straight stretch. See, there it goes. She spun out, but it worked. Here we go again. Oh, man. Yeah. The other problem that I mentioned about the Ellie not having a roll bar, or roll cage, well, there were plenty of roll cage options with this thing, so this is definitely good because you probably will end up rolling this thing over. Probably a lot. With a car that's this fast, yeah, you'll probably end up rolling it over at some point. So, yes. She spun out, but we're going to just loop it and go back. Back on track. Here we are back on the road. Here I can show the turbo shift in action. We're going to start from basically a dead stop. Oh, I don't think I got it there. Here, let's do a nice little burnout here. Get going. I don't think I got it that time. What the hell? There we go. Yeah, it will work, you just gotta do it right. And those red headlights blaring in the night. Oh! Yeah, see, you let off the gas and the thing stops turning as well. So it's kind of, again, it goes against your natural impulses, so you kind of have to unlearn that. But if you hold on the gas, it'll keep turning. But then it'll kind of start to overturn a little bit too much. So again, you kind of have to feather back and forth between being on the gas and getting off the gas. It handles off-road fairly well. Although it is a rear-wheel drive car, so Getting stuck in places can be a problem. I think I've gotten this thing stuck a couple of times, just getting it wedged between like rocks and shit like that, which is, you know, can't really help that kind of thing. It doesn't matter what kind of car it is, you can get it stuck between rocks and trees and crap like that. But the car handles fairly well as long as you know how to handle it. It drifts okay, although most of the time it wants to spin out all the way and not really do a whole drift. She seems to be pretty tough, although the body panels and things still seem kind of weak even with the max armor upgrade. I've taken a couple of hard hits in this thing and the doors kind of get loose to where they don't close all the way. You can kind of see that there's like an inch gap to where it doesn't want to close all the way. The windows have kind of busted out a little bit. The bull bars definitely help protect the headlights, but as you can see, they aren't absolutely good at doing it because you can still break the headlights out if you take too many hard hits to the front. The thing sounds decent, although it could sound better, but that's kind of a problem with a lot of the cars in the game, and specifically muscle cars, because they just don't seem to know how to get good muscle car sounds, the guys at Rockstar. But some of the other cars in the game actually sound pretty good. One of my new favorite cars, you've seen my latest actual gameplay video, was the ones where I was going through the playing cards, picking up the playing cards as well as the stupid action figures, and I was driving around in the Benefactor Schlagen GT, which is based off of a Mercedes AMG GT, is the actual car that it's based off of, and that one actually sounds pretty good. It sounds pretty close to a Mercedes engine. You know, they have like race cars, and that's basically what that car is. It's like a Mercedes race car. Yes. Overall, though, if it hasn't come through enough by what I've said, I do like this car. I think it's all right for what it is. I mean, it's a badass freaking muscle car. It sounds fairly decent, although it could sound a little bit better. Performance-wise, it's pretty fast. It's got to be somewhere near the top of the muscle car category as far as speed. It looks pretty cool. The hood's coming loose there. You can't put like hood pins to actually keep it from popping open like that. Some of the cars, some of the muscle cars actually do have options that have hood pins, but for some reason this one does not. It's mostly because that's an old school muscle car style thing. They don't really do it much on the newer ones. The thing looks cool. It handles fairly well if you know what you're doing. Sounds decent. And it's overall just a pretty badass muscle car. The only problem with it is the freaking price. Now this you can find under the Southern San Andreas, I believe. Yes. The Bravado Gauntlet Hellfire, $745,000. She ain't cheap. But of course, nothing in this fucking game is cheap. And that's one of the biggest problems I have with the whole game. The Gauntlet Classic is also available. I was wanting to get that. That was on the podium at the casino from the Lucky Wheel, but it got changed and it's no longer there, so my opportunity to win it is gone. I'm going to have to buy one if I can. There's also a bunch of other muscle cars that they've added here recently. The Dominator GTX I'm kind of curious to try. The Ellie we already found was kind of not too great. The Hermes, I had one of those and it wasn't that great. It didn't really handle all that well. Looked cool, didn't really handle all that well, and I don't think it sounded all that good either. The Tornado Rat Rod. I think that one had speed, but it's also like the rusty version of the Tornado, and that's a shame because the rusty versions of cars look like crap in this game. And I know they're supposed to, but like it would have been nice to have. Perhaps there is an option to clean up the exterior and make it look shiny and new as opposed to rusty and junky. But it had speed, couldn't stop for shit though. The brakes on this thing are terrible, and having no front end basically, there's no hood, there's no front fenders or bumpers, it's just really ugly that way. And I don't even remember if that thing sounded all that good. Oh yeah, here's the race cars. There's the Bravado Redwood Gauntlet. Yeah, it's still free. Just like the Sprunk Buffalo and the Burger Shot Stallion and the Pisswasser Dominator. Those are all available for free for some reason, I guess because nobody really wants these things, because the stock versions of the cars, most of them anyways, are actually more customizable because you don't really like have any options for these when you try to customize them. Like you can't even change the body kit pieces, which kind of sucks. It's also stupid because the Stallion, I think this one actually comes with a spoiler on it, but the stock Stallion can't get a spoiler, which is also stupid. The Stallion, when they added that car into the game, they should have had plenty of options for it. Number one, I remember the Stallion from GTA 3 that had the Diablo Stallion version of it. Yeah, you can see this thing doesn't have a spoiler, and you can't get one on it. At least I don't think. They might have added options for that. They've actually added some options for older cars, but not a lot of them, and they didn't add a whole lot of options either. Like they added liveries for like some of these cars that they just added for, you know, you can actually buy them on the thing now, whereas you just used to have to steal them off the street before. But yeah, the Stallion, they really should have included options to like turn that thing into like the Diablo Stallion from GTA 3 with the flame job kind of paint job to it, the big supercharger blower sticking out of the hood, and I think it had a spoiler as well, and it was a black, well of course you could just paint it black, but yeah. The Duke's fairly good muscle car. But anyways, yeah. So as I mentioned, I think the Gauntlet Hellfire is actually fairly good. You know, in the right hands, you can handle it fairly well, and it's got speed, it's got some strength. You put these nice bull bars on the front and you can just plow through people, which is nice. It's also the other thing about it that makes it different from the Ellie, where I mentioned that the Ellie is really sensitive in the air when it's flying through the air doing like stunts and stuff, barrel rolls and spins and flips. This one's not as sensitive, so it's more like one of the normal cars as opposed to the Ellie, which was hypersensitive and really touchy in the air. So this one would probably be a lot more manageable for stunt races. Instead of flipping and spinning all over the place, this one would be a lot easier to control. But yeah. That's the Gauntlet Hellfire. I hope you've enjoyed my analysis of this car. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you all for watching. Join us next time for another Buyer Beware video. I'm not sure when I'll be doing that. I don't know if I'm ever going to be doing another one of these. I just kind of... Well, I mean, I probably will at some point, but I don't know what car I'll be covering. We'll have to see. I am planning on buying back one of the brawlers. I think it's on this website. The Coil Brawler, which was... Is it actually on the other website? It's on the other website. Why is it on the Legendary Motorsport? It's an off-road vehicle. Sure, it's a good several $100,000 on the price, but they've got cars like that on the Southern San Andreas one too. Ah, now where'd it go? There it is, the Coil Brawler. An off-road car. It's got off-road suspension and tires. You can put bull bars on it. There's all kinds of different things. Rally raid sort of options that you can put on it. I used to have one of these, and I hated that it took so long to slow down because the brakes just didn't work very well. I don't know, but it seems like they may have changed that. I'm not sure, but I used a stock one in a race just for funsies, and it actually seemed a lot better. The price tag, kind of ridiculous. But, again, everything in this game is overpriced. But either way, that's going to do it for the video. Gauntlet Hellfire. Great muscle car in the right hands. If you're not too good at driving vehicles in this game, you might want to steer clear of this guy. Because she's not for the weak-hearted and she's not for the rookie drivers. So you probably need to have your driving skill on your character maxed out. Well, that may not really affect it much, but you need to be a good driver. You need to know what you're doing when it comes to handling these things, because the description they give for the car on the website is, yeah. Turn that funny looking wheel in the middle of the dash even a little bit and you're as good as dead. Actually, that's referring to the actual Dodge Demon. There's a little dial that changes like power settings or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. But anyways, I keep stalling this. That's the end of the video. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I will be seeing you next time for more of GTA Online, possibly another Buyer Beware video. So, thank you for watching, and good night.